Hello, welcome to another session in Java programming. This is Owen Riley, and in this session we're going to review the installations that we did in our previous session and get more in-depth look at Eclipse as we start our first Java programs. So to explore our installation, what we want to do is check some folders on our C drive. So I'll open a File Explorer and go to my C drive. And remember, we installed two of the defaults, and the defaults would have put our Java installation in our Programs Files folder. So again, I'm in Windows C, Program Files. You should find a Java folder there, and in that Java folder should be the JDK, the Java Development Kit that you installed from our previous sessions. If you have other JDKs on your machine, the older ones will remain. They are not erased. The newer ones are just added to the program files. So that's all we need to do with the JDK. Hopefully, keep our fingers crossed. We won't be coming back to that anymore. Eclipse is where all the action is, and if you recall, we also installed Eclipse to our program files. So I have an Eclipse folder here. And if I open up my Eclipse folder, that's actually where my Eclipse application is and all the support that it needs. So you can start your Eclipse application right from here. Of course, later on, depending on your preference, you can add shortcuts or to your taskbar, whatever you want to do. But right now, we're going to keep it to the basics today, and I'm just going to launch Eclipse from inside its own folder. It will come up with this dialog box asking me where I want my workspace to be. And I'm going to set up a new workspace in my Documents folder, and I'm just going to call it Java 2019 Fall. Whoops, hold on a second. I got to create that new folder, don't I? There we go. Java 2019 Fall. Now I got it created. Hit enter. Select that folder. And you can see that that is now my workspace. You would generally keep using the same workspace time after time. When I relaunch this the next time, I change workspaces back and forth, but generally speaking, from a student's perspective, you would have all of your files in a single workspace. You can change it, and that's why that dialog box comes up. And we'll get into that more later, but like I say, right now we're kind of looking at the basics. The welcome screen comes up, and we can do a couple of things here. Review settings, get an overview, look at tutorials, look at some samples, many things you can do. What we're going to do right now, however, is simply create a new Java project. We could create a hello world application, but that's basically what we're going to do right here. You might want to walk through that yourself. But for this video, we're going to create a new Java project. It will come up asking us for our project name, and I'm just going to, what I like to do for a lot of my work is I like to date it. So what I do, first of all, is I start with a year, 2019, then I'll give it the month, today is 08, and the day today I think is the 21st. And I'm just going to call this first file. Let's call it first Java file. Now again, if you worked through our other videos, you saw me make one there, but all we did was make it and stop. We're going to work more with this first Java file project today. And we'll now come down here at the bottom of the IDE. Let me reshape it a little bit and click the whoops, I still don't have it up there. Get up there, buddy. There we go. There's the finish button. I think I've got it showing now. There we go. Click the finish button. You could click next if you want to change options, but again, we are looking at the basics. We're just going to click finish right now. That will open up your Java, your IDE, your Eclipse IDE in the Java perspective. It will look something like this. If you've got the default perspective, which at this point you should have, because we haven't changed any perspectives or moved windows around. But it is oftentimes easy for this studio to be changed visually, and we'll show you how to get it back to this basic look. This will always be the look that I start with. It's the basic look, and that way you can always get your perspective back to this default. But again, we're not going to worry about that yet. We're just going to assume that right now you're all in this basic default, because you basically should be when you first open Eclipse. Once we open the project we ask it to create, notice that we'll have a system library in all Java projects, and this holds the Java files that are necessary to get the work done. We don't need to work with or worry about any of these items for this class. We must have a system library, but we're not going to directly manipulate anything in there. Our source folder right now is empty, so what we'll do here is we will right click. The easiest way to make sure your files get put in the right location is to right click that source folder and tell it you want a new, and since we already have a project, what we want is a Java file right now. But notice in this list we do see the word file, but that's really not what we want. What we want is what's known as a Java class. The Java class is where we will put our source code. So let's click on class, and notice when you do that, it shows you the source folder that this will be in. Your package should remain blank. If you have anything in the package, what you want to do is delete that. We want to use the default package, and then we want to give this a name, and we'll call it first hello. Excuse me. I need a cough button here so I can mute my coughs, but I don't have one. But anyhow, excuse me. Now, what we want to do is leave this public. We'll explain all this as we go through the class, but right now we want to keep that default there. We want none of these checked, but what we do want is we want it to create a method stub for us. And to run your program, each Java class must have, to run it, you must have a main method. Now, other people can access this public main method, and we need to have one of those, and we'll get into more of that again as we go through the class. Right now, make sure that is checked. Leave everything else checked, right, or this checked right now as well. So the only changes you make in here are you give it a name, and you come down here and check this public static void main, and click finish. Now you see over here in our package explorer on the left hand side, we do have an additional items in our source folder. One is a sub package here, the default package. That's where we put our first hello program. Notice it's called firsthello.java. Notice how I named it: capital first letter, capital second word, and they added the .java themselves. But that's our naming convention for Java classes. Each Java class should be named using the first letter capitalized and each subsequent word capitalized. And in Java, no other construct starts with a capitalized first letter except a Java, what's known as a Java class. Okay, keep that in mind as we add detail, and want to make sure you follow good programming practices. So in our class, if you'll recall, when we went over excuse me, the syllabus, what we need to do is add a 3-line header. And that 3-line header, if you'll just click up there on line 1, notice how Eclipse has left that first line blank because they assume that you want to come up here and add things. And so we'll add what's known as a Java comment. The simplest way to create Java comments, and a comment is a line that the Java compiler will ignore, is with 2 slashes, as I've shown there. And then we can type anything we want after this. We want to put our name here for our class structure. We want a description of what this is, a first Java example. And we want a date or a lab number, and since this is not a lab, we'll just put a date here, and this is August of 2019. This one's hot off the presses. So there's your 3-line header that each program, each class must have when you submit it for grading. So those are our first conventions. The names have to start capitalized, just like my example is here. You need to add 3-line comments at the beginning. That will do it for you. And then what we'll do now is come down here. Notice on my line 8, we have this auto-generated this line that was automatically created. Notice it's a comment too as well. Started with 2 slashes, and it says this method stub, this main, was auto-generated because we told them to do that. And we're not going to worry about what this public static void main string square brackets args means yet. What we're going to do is we're going to highlight this line and delete it. We will explain right now that the word public in Java means that anybody outside your program can get to it, which means this is accessible by other programs or other programmers. So that's what public means. Internally, it becomes it's software that's accessible to other Java code, if you will. And what we want you to do for this first week's lab is simply type a couple of lines into the main method. And what we want you to type are some print lines. And so we're going to give you a quick example of a print line today. And so if you're going to add this example later, and you should always go back and add the examples after you view the videos, is the first thing we need to do. This is going to be a print line, so we'll just put a comment here. The next line will print a string literal, which means a bunch of words. So to do that, this is the syntax. Syntax is the code you use, the structure you use to get the computer to do what you want. Now the first thing, we should be tabbed over one spot. Notice how our main method is tabbed over one spot from our class, and now our line of code should be tabbed, indented one tab spot there. Or actually, some companies don't want tab spots because the difference is in tabs. They want you to do 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. But for us, tabs are good. And the command we're going to do is a system command. Whoops, better spell system right. So that's system. I got fat fingers. You'll see a lot of typos in my videos. System, and then we'll use what's known as a dot operator. The period is a dot operator. And what it will do, if you have a legal statement so far in Eclipse, in our IDE, it will show you other legal statements that could go with system. And what we want is a system dot, and so that's what this is kind of a list of legal things you can do. Well, what we want is we want a system dot out command, and then we'll have another period, and notice it will give us some more choices. And you can see some of the things you can do here. We can do some print things, and that's what we're going to do. But again, I'm going to just show you right now what to type in there. And these suggestions we can come back